Hi, Nigeria.
Hey, how's it going, Alberto? My name again is Nigeria Chambers from Big O Belt Media. It's a pleasure to talk to you today about episode 6 of season 3 of Upload here. So since we're diving right into the season, I want to start off with my first question by just asking, how does it feel to be part of the Upload family?
Amazing. I mean, I was a big fan of season 1 and 2. So just to be part of the show was like a dream come true. And then, and especially also with like Great Daniels, with all the amazing show he's done. So it was like a pinch me moment, one of those things that you work really hard in Hollywood and you finally get, what you always dream of. So it was amazing. Yeah.
A- Absolutely, congratulations. Just want to say a huge fan of the film Gatlop. I saw it last year, I believe it was, and when I realized that you directed this episode and you had obviously directed that, I said, "Oh, it makes sense. It perfectly makes sense." Here. For the folks who may not be familiar with your work, how would you sort of describe your style?
I guess like comedy with a heart, like I try to do a little bit of comedy with heart and then some sort of like commentary about life or some issues without being too going too deep. I enjoy making people laugh, so that's my main goal as a director. Yeah.
Absolutely. In the world, we need a lot of it. And all the time, shall I say. So definitely appreciate you in taking that approach. Now getting into this episode, and actually I also want to talk a little bit about the cast because even in Gatlop, just the array of charisma and this character driven acting you have with that cast. I mean, I'm sure you were super elated to have the likes of like Robbie and Andy, Allegra. I mean, these folks, Kevin, Owen. I mean, I couldn't even imagine if I had to come on set to say like, yeah, so here's the people we're gonna work with. Like, where do I start? But especially now that you have two different versions of Nathan, which just means you get more diversity with Robbie here. Allegra also give you Ingrid that's under the influence, which she shows some tremendous range in this episode. Just with the cast there, how excited were you? Were you excited to be directed this episode with this group of folks?
Yeah, I mean the actors truly they're like amazing. They're only like super talented, super good looking. When you're on set, you're like, ooh, it's like too many good looking people in this room, and it was really good. Like I mean, I was especially Robert, playing against himself. I was like blown away. Like he knew the time of every joke. He knew exactly how to do the same mannerisms. It was truly amazing. I was like just to see him work through that. It was like it was true a great experience and. Ingrid and Andy, like how they play each other, like with the Nathans and the nuances of that. And Owen, like the AI guy, he's really, really funny to work with. So it was like better than I expected, like you had these other expectations and it was a blast. And yeah, yeah.
Yeah. You know, last season, getting a chance to interview Owen is literally the most unserious moment of my entire life. I just can't even imagine having to be professional and actually try to do something productive around him. He's such a fantastic person here.
And then he's like great, like he's really funny even and said like somehow like he had like I'm from Guadalajara, Mexico, and he had like a shirt from Guadalajara like randomly, so he was like and I'm like, wait, what? Like why are you wearing like a t-shirt? He's like, oh, I just came from a trip there. This is just a random t-shirt that I had. And I was like, well, I'm from there. So it was like he's the sweetest and he's like and he wrote the episode that I directed. So it was like a true, like how to make the scenes that he wrote to come alive. So it was so fun to be with him. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. Here. So much talent within that Daniels family. So getting into this episode, I gotta be honest, man. Ingrid is a character still now, even coming into um episode 6 here, it's still a character that I don't know if the fans have ultimately turned the page on fully. And sometimes she could be a little annoying and a distraction, all these sorts of different things. But my heart has always kind of been there for her. And even while she's down and you see a little glimpse of her, with the other Nathan, and it seems like she's gonna be okay. We get this news from her father, Oliver, that just not to me, I would have thought would have crushed her, but didn't. Is this because of her sobriety here, or has she just really just coped with the worst now that things just doesn't affect her anymore?
I think he kind of like you know, you expect the worst and you get the worst, and then you kind of like that Succession show that I love, the quote, like he was pre-grieving, you know, like, and I think she was always thinking the worst about the dad. So when she gets the news, it's just more of a confirmation than a reveal necessarily. And she does have like a little bit of a moment of like that realization, like, oh shit, like it's actually true. And then she kind of like goes into finding love with Nathan to cope with that. And I think she's always, that's the reason probably she's also obsessed with Nathan, right? Like that's her support, the only person she has support with. So like I think the good thing, like she got the news while he was with Nathan, so she was able to kind of like bounce it off of him and try to get him back, and you know, see the episode to see what happens. But I think that's the reason she was kind of able to cope it a little bit better, because she was with Nathan at that moment.
Okay, yeah, I just always feel for her, man. I was like, God, there's always one thing after another, and then after the whole like, hey, play that back. I heard my name, and I'm just like, oh, it's over for her. But she gets into this flirty mode, and I think all of us has probably been in the situation where our emotions are compromised, and we kind of navigated through expression of emotion of that sorts. But I just kept thinking, like, man, every single moment, man, if it ain't the fans beating her down, like it's the writing just giving her a hard time one after another. But truly, Allegra has just been
Oh,
underratedly the star of this show. She's been super, super good, super good. And this was another fantastic episode. Um, I have to ask, because I'm also on the fence with this, and this actually was a really good episode with different character dynamics. Karina and Alicia, do we really buy into this here? We seen Alicia, try to like consoling Luke about it, which Luke made it about him because it's Luke. But is
right.
she buying into Karina?
Uh, I think, I mean, she has like hesitations. I think so, right? Like I think what I love, especially about this season, everyone feels so vulnerable. You know, like I think we're getting to know the characters deeper and deeper. And I think you realize that everyone is just trying to connect with each other, right? Like despite the technology and the afterlife and all that crazy stuff that's happening, what I love about this season, especially, is like you see how vulnerable they are. And I think Alicia, it's especially vulnerable, you know, with the family, that, you know, like coping with work. So I think again, like you always try to find that person who is like maybe trying to console you or help you. And I think she's kind of fooling herself just to be able to be with somebody, right? Because like Nora is not there for her, like, and then Luke is like too busy with his crazy stuff, you know. So I think she's trying to find again that arm where she can cry, even if it's like a fake arm, you know, like. So
Yeah.
I think she's fooling herself a little bit. Like we all do, you know, like when you're like a bad relationship where you need something, so you try to cope different ways.
Yeah. That's the one thing that I've said even throughout season since the beginning of this series, is that while we're so futuristic and tech and the possibilities, it still finds its way to be grounded. Just so many relatable things within this episode, as you just mentioned with one. I could again going back to Ingrid, who just kind of was coping with the situation the best she can. That I think a lot of us can relate to for sure. And speaking of Nora, um, she's had a very interesting episode, so I say as well too. And she ultimately chooses real Nathan over backup Nathan. Why this decision, shall I say? Where would you say sort of landed her on this? This has been it's been a conflicting battle for her the entire episode here.
I think I think because he's real, you know, he can touch him, and even if he's like, you know, insecure, and but I think Nora realizes ultimately relationships are not perfect, and maybe the relationship she can have, you know, with backup Nathan could be better. I think she's willing to go with real Nathan because, you know, you have to work through any relationships, and maybe even, you know, backup Nathan will be kind of like real Nathan, right? So it's like better have the real Nathan where you can touch it and have it 3D. And they just have to work through their relationship like any, you know, any other relationship that people have. So I think that's the reason she ultimately chooses him.
Yeah. I thought Andy did, and much to all of her episodes. This episode, I thought this was probably the most Andy I've seen in Nora. Sort of her, and maybe whether it was in the script or whether it was just kind of her improvising. When she was in her captivity, should we say, in the beginning of the episode, she's kind of freestyling. It's like, hey, is she like, is it the drugs or like what's happened to her? You see her just kind of floating around, which was so good. And I honestly, I was like, yeah, that's Andy just doing what she do. Could you talk about working with her through this episode, and her even go through the emotions of her kind of being in a trance in the beginning to ultimately playing her true self later on.
But she's so, she's so blessed to work, especially like the scene that you mentioned where it's like the drugs. We were playing with different things, and she's so creative. So like every time she will do a different dance, or it would be. But what I love about her, and then all the cast is like she's very grounded. Right? Like she knows she can be funny, but she's not. It feels that it comes from inside rather than like, oh, I'm showing you how funny I am. Like she was just very committed to like the drugs, and also when she wakes up and you realize that she's not where supposed to be, and then she has kind of like a little bit of meltdown. We tried different ranges, because we also didn't want to go too dramatic,
Mm-hmm.
So like, we play with like a variation of ranges, and we found one that it was like kind of like shocking but still grounded without like being overly the top, if that makes sense. And I think that's the beauty of Andy. Like she's able to give you like nuances here and there to make it funny, but again, yet a little bit touching and grounded. Yeah.
Yeah, 1,000%. I just couldn't even imagine, man, being in your shoes and just knowing how much range each one of these cast members have, and whether you wanted to scale it out of control or let them just kind of just keep it contained for a future moment. Like it's got to just be. To me, I just push the pedal to the metal. Like, hey, give me all of this right now. This is my opportunity. But this is all done good. This is a very pivotal episode, and I really can't wait to see what's going to come next, because obviously with now this evidence with Freon, I think this should definitely change a lot. So if you could hint a little bit about what is to come later on this season, what would be some descriptors you would give?
Oh yeah. I'm like thinking, I don't know to spoil it. I think unpredictable, and I think at the same time makes sense. It's like one of those things when I was creating the scripts, I was reading, where is this going? Like that's the beauty again of these shows. Like, and then when it goes to episode 7 and 8, I'm like, oh, that makes sense. Like that is taking an interesting turn that we haven't seen before, yet it feels from the same universe. Like and I would say that like unexpected and fun, and I would say even probably deep. I think we can get into topics that you find out later. Yeah.
I'm gonna be sticking around for the whole ride here. But Alberto, obviously, thank you so much for discussing Memory Crackers, episode 6 of season 3. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask why I have the opportunity. I know in due of the light of the strike and the writer strike just being resolved, I know you have some future and upcoming work kind of already in the mix. Is there anything you may be able to say about that just yet?
Yes, I have a Christmas Disney movie that comes on Thanksgiving on Disney Plus.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm very excited about it. It's called The Naughty Nine. Danny Glover is playing Santa. So it's very exciting. So, and that was shot 2 years ago before upload, but it takes so long, with these movies and VFX. So I'm very excited about that. And hopefully the strike, the actors get what they deserve, and then we can all go back to work. Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. I'll definitely be checking that out. Danny Glover as Santa Claus. Didn't know I needed that until now, but here we go. Well, again, thank you so much for your time today. Hopefully we get this call again very soon.
Thank you. I had a blast. So thanks for the interview. And I'm glad you like Gatlo. So that was very nice of you. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep.
Bye.
Thank you.
Ridiculous.